The Vatican has long navigated a complex tapestry of alliances, engaging with a host of enigmatic entities, from its medieval maneuvers to the shadowy dealings of World War II, and the intriguing ties to influential dynasties like the Rothschilds. This institution's web of connections has profoundly shaped the course of global affairs. Join us in this eye-opening video as we dive in and shine a light on the pivotal figures and organizations that are instrumental in steering the globalist narrative. The Vatican's history of controversial alliances stretches deep into the annals of time, revealing a complex interplay between faith and power. During the Crusades, the Vatican forged partnerships with various monarchs, rallying armies under the sacred banner of religion. These military campaigns were not merely spiritual endeavors, they were strategic alliances aimed at expanding influence and reclaiming territories, often resulting in significant cultural and political ramifications. The Inquisition further exemplifies the Vatican's willingness to collaborate with secular authorities. This dark chapter in history saw the Church ally with local governments to suppress dissent and maintain religious orthodoxy. This often led to harsh measures against perceived heretics, thus illustrating the lengths to which the Vatican would go to preserve its authority and doctrine. Let's dig into the dangerous alliance of Rothschild and Vatican of Francis. The most globally oriented and interventionist pope since the 12th century established a formal alliance with some of the most prominent leaders in international finance, led by none other than that notorious banking family, Rothschild. The new alliance is a joint venture they call the Council for Inclusive Capitalism with the Vatican. This initiative represents one of the most cynical and, considering the key players involved, one of the most perilous deceptions advocated since Klaus Schwab, a protege of Henry Kissinger and a prominent figure of the World Economic Forum, began to champion the idea of a great reset of the global capitalist system. What and who is behind this so-called Council for Inclusive Capitalism with the Vatican? On their website, they assert in a manner reminiscent of UN rhetoric, the Council for Inclusive Capitalism is a movement comprising global business and public sector leaders dedicated to creating a more inclusive, sustainable, and trustworthy economic system that meets the needs of both our communities and the planet. Doesn't the notion of a more sustainable and trusted economic system evoke parallels to the notorious UN Agenda 21 and its successor, Agenda 2030, often perceived as part of a broader globalist strategy? They claim, inclusive capitalism is fundamentally about creating long-term value for all stakeholders: businesses, investors, employees, customers, governments, and communities. They continue with council members make actionable commitments aligned with the World Economic Forum International Business Council's pillars for sustainable value creation. Their reference to Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum is no accident. The group is yet another front group in what is becoming a globalist bum rush to try to convince a skeptical world that the same people who created the post-1945 model of IMF-led globalization and giga-corporate entities more powerful than governments, destroying traditional agriculture in favor of toxic agribusiness, dismantling living standards in industrialized countries to flee to cheap labor countries like Mexico or China, will now lead the effort to correct all their abuses. We are being naive if we swallow this. Rothschild and pals. First off, it is useful to see who are the inclusive capitalists joining forces with the Pope and Vatican. The founder is Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. She is the wife of the 90-year-old retired mega-billionaire head of London's N.M. Rothschild's bank, Sir Evelyn de Rothschild. She appeared to have had several influential mentors as she transitioned from Wall Street to the telecommunications sector, including Motorola, where she reportedly earned tens of millions. Eventually, she partnered with Sir Evelyn, who is said to have assets amounting to around $20 billion. Reports indicate that Henry Kissinger took a personal role in facilitating the transatlantic union between the two. According to the list of individuals who flew on the private jet of convicted child sex trafficker and reported Mossad operative Jeffrey Epstein, one notable name that appears is de Rothschild Lynn Forrester. It's noteworthy that in 1991, before marrying Sir Evelyn, Lynn Forrester allowed a British friend to have full use of one of her Manhattan apartment properties. This occurred after the apparent murder of the friend's father, Robert Maxwell, who was a British media tycoon and reportedly had ties to Mossad. Lynn's British friend Ghislaine Maxwell is currently incarcerated for her involvement in child sex trafficking as a partner of Jeffrey Epstein. Notably, despite the serious allegations, it seems that Epstein allegedly trafficked children to no one, as no additional charges have been brought against others in connection with these activities. Maxwell reportedly retained the Manhattan address of Lady Lynn until quite recently to register a peculiar non-profit organization called Terramar, which she and Epstein established in 2012. The organization was allegedly focused on ocean conservation efforts. When Epstein was arrested, she quickly dissolved the non-profit. One of the donors to Ghislaine Maxwell's Terramar was the Clinton Foundation, which brings us to the next connection in this intricate web of relationships. Lady Lynn has a longtime friend in Hillary Clinton, whose husband, Bill Clinton, was recorded as being on Epstein's Lolita Express private jet approximately 24 times. This connection further intertwines the relationships among these prominent figures. Lynn and her husband, Sir Evelyn, were indeed so close to the Clintons that in 2000, the newlyweds spent part of their honeymoon as guests at the White House with the Clintons. After their White House visit, Lady Lynn became a prominent fundraiser, known as a bundler, for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaigns in both 2008 and 2016. This role involved gathering substantial donations to support Clinton's bids for the presidency. In addition to her fundraising efforts, Lady Lynn also advised Hillary Clinton on her economic program, which she described as a free market approach based on the principles of Adam Smith, as she mentioned in an interview. This involvement underscores her influence in shaping economic policy discussions within Clinton's campaign. Lady Lynn's Guardians. The Rothschild venture with the Vatican, alongside co-founder Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, now encompasses a select group of financial moguls and their foundations. The member list of the Guardians includes Rajiv Shah, who serves as the chief executive officer of the Rockefeller Foundation. His involvement adds significant weight to the group, given the Rockefeller Foundation's long-standing history and influence in philanthropic efforts and global initiatives. Rajiv Shah is also noted for his previous involvement with the Gates Foundation's initiative known as AGRA, Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, which aimed to introduce genetically modified organism, GMO, seeds in Africa. This initiative has faced criticism and controversy, with some labeling it a scam due to concerns over its impact on local agriculture and food security. His connection to such a contentious project adds a layer of complexity to his role within the Guardians. The Rockefeller Foundation has indeed been associated with discussions around pandemic preparedness and response since at least 2010, advocating for measures that include lockdowns as part of public health strategies. This involvement has led to claims that the foundation plays a central role in the World Economic Forum's Great Reset agenda, which seeks to reshape economic and social systems in the wake of global crises, including the COVID-19 pandemic. Critics argue that this reflects a push for significant changes in governance and economic structures, often raising concerns about transparency and accountability. Rajiv Shah recently released a report titled "Reset the Table: Meeting the Moment to Transform the U.S. Food System," published by the Rockefeller Foundation. This report focuses on the need for significant reforms in the U.S. food system, highlighting issues such as food security, sustainability, and equity. Darren Walker, the chief executive officer of the Ford Foundation, is another prominent member of the Rothschild's Guardians. Under his leadership, the Ford Foundation has focused on social justice and addressing systemic inequalities. Walker's inclusion in this group further emphasizes the collaboration between influential philanthropic leaders and their commitment to shaping policies and initiatives that align with their shared vision for societal impact. The Ford and Rockefeller Foundations have indeed played significant roles in shaping American foreign policy through their philanthropic activities and initiatives. By funding various programs and influencing discourse on global issues, these foundations have often operated in ways that align with or even guide U.S. interests abroad. Their impact can sometimes overshadow traditional governmental agencies like the State Department or the CIA, as they promote specific agendas and values through development projects, research, and advocacy, effectively acting as powerful players on the global stage. This perspective raises questions about the intersection of philanthropy, policy, and power in shaping international relations. The inclusion of the head of DuPont, a major player in the GMO and chemicals sector, among the guardians, underscores the connection between influential corporate leaders and philanthropic initiatives. DuPont has been involved in the development of genetically modified crops and agricultural chemicals, aligning with the interests of organizations like the Rockefeller Foundation. Additionally, companies like Merck and Johnson & Johnson, which have faced various scandals related to vaccines and pharmaceuticals, also have leadership represented in this group. Their involvement raises questions about the ethical implications of corporate influence in philanthropy and public health, as well as the relationships between corporate interests, research funding, and policymaking in health and agriculture. Merck's Vioxx is a well-documented case of controversy in the pharmaceutical industry. Initially approved for the treatment of arthritis and pain, it was later found that Vioxx significantly increased the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Research indicated that Merck had knowledge of these risks, but failed to adequately disclose them, leading to widespread use of the drug and resulting in an estimated 55,000 to 100,000 deaths due to cardiovascular events. Johnson & Johnson has indeed faced significant legal challenges and controversies in recent years. The company has been involved in lawsuits concerning its antipsychotic drug Risperdal, with claims that it downplayed the risk of serious side effects, including gynecomastia, breast development in males. This has led to numerous lawsuits and settlements. Johnson & Johnson has also faced allegations regarding its talcum powder products, with claims that they contained asbestos, a known carcinogen. This has resulted in thousands of lawsuits from consumers alleging that the use of these products led to cancer. The company has been scrutinized for its role in the opioid epidemic, particularly as a supplier of raw materials for opioid medications. Johnson & Johnson has faced litigation over its marketing practices and the contribution of its products to addiction and overdose deaths. Other guardians include CEOs of Visa, MasterCard, Bank of America, Allianz Insurance, BP. The cashless economy experiment in India, often associated with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government, aimed to reduce corruption and improve financial transparency by promoting digital transactions. Visa and the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, played roles in this initiative, but it faced considerable criticism. Many argued that the rapid transition to a cashless system marginalized low-income populations, who often rely on cash for their daily transactions, and led to widespread disruptions in the economy. Notable also is Guardian Mark Carney, former Bank of England head and also advocate of cashless digital central bank currencies to replace the dollar. Carney is now United Nations Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance. Carney is also a board member of the World Economic Forum. In fact, several of Rothschild's guardians are on the WEF board, including billionaire Mark Benioff, founder of cloud computing Salesforce, and OECD head Angel Gurria. And ex-Credit Suisse CEO Tidjane Thiam is on the International Business Council of the World Economic Forum. Other guardians of the inclusive capitalism transformation include the head of Bank of America, which bank was sued by the U.S. government for fraud connected with the 2008 U.S. subprime mortgage crisis, as well as for laundering money for the deadly Mexican drug cartels and Russian organized crime. The select guardian list also includes Marcy Frost, the controversial head of CalPERS, the huge fraud-ridden California State Pension Fund managing over $360 billion. The head of State Street Corporation, one of the world's largest asset management companies with $3.1 trillion under management, is another guardian. In January 2020, State Street announced it would vote against directors of companies in major stock indices that do not meet targets for environmental, social, and governance changes. This is what is called green investing, as part of so-called socially responsible investing. The WEF strategy, pushed also by WEF board members like Larry Fink of BlackRock, reward companies that they deem socially responsible. This is the key to the inclusive capitalism agenda of not just Rothschild's inclusive capitalism guardians, but also the WEF. This approach has faced criticism for potentially allowing companies to engage in greenwashing, where they present an image of environmental responsibility without making substantive changes. Critics argue that the focus on ESG metrics can sometimes overlook the complexities of social and environmental issues, leading to superficial commitments rather than meaningful action. Their website claims that the Guardians manage more than $10.5 trillion and control companies that employ 200 million workers. Now a brief look at their new Vatican partner. Vatican morals? Ironically, or maybe not, Pope Francis, the partner chosen to give Rothschild's group of mega-capitalists moral credibility, is himself embroiled in what could be the largest financial scandals, fraud, and misuse of church funds in the modern history of the Vatican. Since his election in 2013, Pope Francis has indeed prioritized reforming the Vatican's financial practices, acknowledging the long-standing issues of corruption and mismanagement within the Holy See. He established the Secretariat for the Economy to oversee the Vatican's finances and implemented measures aimed at increasing transparency and accountability. Despite these intentions, many observers have noted that significant challenges remain. Reports of financial irregularities and scandals have persisted, leading to skepticism about the effectiveness of the reforms. Some critics argue that the entrenched nature of the Vatican's financial culture, along with resistance from various factions within the Church, has hindered meaningful change. Moreover, high-profile cases, including investigations into financial dealings and the misappropriation of funds, have raised questions about the extent of corruption within the Vatican. This ongoing situation highlights the complexities of institutional reform, particularly in an organization with a vast and often opaque financial network. The perceived lack of progress in cleaning up Vatican finances has led to disappointment among those who hoped for a more profound transformation. It underscores the tension between the Church's moral teachings and the realities of its financial practices, creating a challenging environment for leadership committed to ethical stewardship. Cardinal Angelo Becciu has indeed been at the center of a significant scandal involving allegations of financial misconduct within the Vatican. Before his dismissal in 2020, Becciu held a powerful position as the substitute for general affairs in the Vatican Secretariat of State, making him one of the Pope's closest advisors. The scandal erupted over Becciu's involvement in a controversial investment in a London real estate venture, which reportedly resulted in substantial financial losses for the Vatican. Allegations include misuse of Vatican funds, favoritism in financial dealings, and a lack of transparency in investments. Becciu's connections to various financial transactions and the subsequent fallout raised serious questions about accountability within the Vatican's financial practices. Pope Francis's decision to elevate Becciu to cardinal in 2018, especially to a role overseeing the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, was seen as a significant endorsement at the time. However, the later revelations and Becciu's eventual dismissal marked a dramatic turn, highlighting the challenges the Church faces in addressing corruption and the complexities of leadership within its ranks. This situation not only reflects the difficulties of reforming Vatican finances, but also illustrates the broader implications of leadership and trust within the Church. The scandal has drawn attention to the need for greater oversight and accountability, as well as the importance of aligning financial practices with the Church's moral and ethical obligations. Becciu, clearly no saint, was able to invest hundreds of millions, even billions, over years of Church funds, including donations for the poor in Peter's Pence, into projects he chose with a former banker from Credit Suisse. Projects included €150 million share in a luxury London real estate complex and $1.1 million into a film, Rocket Man, about the life of Elton John. That comes to light as the ongoing Vatican child sex scandals caused Pope Francis to defrock Cardinal Theodore McCarrick of Washington, the first cardinal to fall in the Church's deep sexual abuse charges. Italian press reports that the Pope knew about the dubious investments of Becciu and even praised them before the depth of the scandals broke. In November 2020, Italian police raided the residence of Becciu's former Vatican accountant and found €600,000 in cash and evidence the Vatican employee received $15 million in fake invoicing over years. With a background like this, the new Council for Inclusive Capitalism with the Vatican of Lynn de Rothschild warrants close scrutiny as they clearly plan big things, along with Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum to reform the world economy. And it won't be nice or moral, we can be sure.